Coming up on this episode of Outlook TV, Vancouver Queer Film Festival. A documentary on Sochi Pride, and much, much more. Welcome to Outlook TV. I'm Rebecca Wyman.
And I'm Robert Mackay, and this is the Queer Magazine news show that brings you the stories that matter the most from coast to coast.
We're going to start off in Vancouver with the Pride Run.
And they've left the green pastures of Stanley Park to go to the sand of Sunset Beach. Dean's got the story.
Hi, I'm Dean Nelson. I'm here for Outlook TV at the annual Pride Run and Walk here in Vancouver. And we're going to go and talk to a few people and see what it's all about.
We have about 450 runners signed up, so it's going to be a big day.
450 runners.
That's right.
Wow.
And walkers.
And walkers. That's great. Do you know how many countries or?
I don't know how many countries are represented, but we have adults, children, pets. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So this is my first time. So
Your first time running. So are you going to run or are you going to walk today?
I'm going to try to run as much as I can. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, right on. So it's a 5K
Yeah, it's
run.
a 5K run. I am in a dress, so
Wow.
and I'm very unladylike. I sweat quite a bit, so I have to kind of
Nice.
watch how fast I go and still, remain my graceful composure while not, sweating like a pig.
Normally it's at Brockton Oval. This time it's at Sunset Beach.
I like it. It's better. We thought it was fabulous. It's sunnier, there's more sun, less trees, and it's on the water.
One of the concerns with having it at the Stanley Park Brockton Oval Pavilion was that it's not quite accessible for everybody. It's a little bit of a challenge for people to get there, and we pride ourselves in being as inclusive as possible. So we wanted to find a new location where everyone can get here. We've got plenty of parking and public transportation. It's wheelchair accessible, so we just want it to be as exclusive as possible.
You made it! Yay! Give it up for Patty and Pam!
My first 5K, my first run ever. First little 5K run. Girl did all right?
I've been involved with the group since the early 2000s, and it's been great to see this evolution, progression, where we've become increasingly more inclusive. So we run, we walk, run, we dine. So we have members who enjoy the company of the runners and walkers and may choose to run and walk on their own for a variety of personal reasons.
Once again, I'd also like to thank our sponsors. I'd like to thank Bob and Linda for the warm-up. Vancouver Pride Society, what you see today just wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for VPS. And last but not least, can I get a big round of applause for all of our volunteers?
Up next, we're going to take you to the Vancouver Queer Film Festival. Changemakers, troublemakers.
And more. They also have the Two-Spirited dealing with the cold up in the Arctic.
We're at the Vancouver Queer Film Festival to find out about the Changemakers program, a new Troublemakers project, and a Two-Spirit focus.
The results I had in my head, you always have this vision of what you want to look like.
To Be a Man is a documentary film about Levi Hansinger. We followed his life from pre-testosterone into about 1.5 years on testosterone. So a lot of the story starts with how he grew up and then how his daily life is now being a man in society and how he feels within himself.
I think it's important to acknowledge your own story and see the growth within your own story, and that everyone's story is a bit different, and that's totally okay. Eating me alive every day that nothing was changing, and so I had to actually do something about it.
The Troublemakers program matched youth filmmakers with senior activists.
They try to push the boundary of using using a washroom that doesn't have a pronoun. Some of the things that they've done really spoke up for the movement and from the generation that I never had a chance to witness.
And I go on the men and I go pee, but I'm kind of walking in there like this, like my eyes are shifting, like, am I going to pass?
I experienced racism when I was about 10 actually, and it cost me a couple friends, and I resented it ever since. And it got me involved in the civil rights movement in the U.S. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I was thinking someday it'll be our turn.
Because an attack on anybody's human rights is an attack on everybody's human rights.
I think that the piece is just lovely. It's all about community, and it's all about how we work together and how we set up an environment where we all are included and heard.
Love the people that are a part of the world.
Mona told me once she had to climb up a coal chute because of a raid. Things like that just make me feel really grateful. I never had to go through that. So I thank the warriors that were before me and gave me this really nice rainbow path to walk on.
Fighting in the 70s for all our rights.
The Two Spirit program brought a film from Iqaluit to Vancouver.
The name of the film is called Two Soft Things, Two Hard Things. Essentially, it's about an LGBTQ pride event that's happening in Iqaluit, Nunavut. And it's the second year that they had been doing it. And it's sort of about the story of how that came about and how that's even possible in 2015, because it was last year.
The main goal in creating the film was to continue a conversation. I think the area, the territory and the Inuit people and the culture really need to have conversations around gender and sexuality.
We were drilled. There was a process of trying to assimilate us into becoming something other than what we were.
This is Gary Wolfeder for Outlook TV.
We're going to have to take just a little break now.
It's a perfect time to grab a bucket of popcorn and drown our sorrows, eh?
In butter?
Butter.
Welcome back. You're watching Outlook TV. And up next, we're going to go to one of your stories, Robert.
Oh, it's an independent documentary film made about all the propaganda laws that were controversial at the time of Sochi.
Ooh.
It's gonna be deep.
Robert Mackay on location on Davie Street at the Junction, and I'm about to interview the two documentary creators for the documentary Sochi Pride that was shot during the Olympics in Sochi in 2014. Let's see what they have to say.
I started seeing and hearing a lot more news about Russia and their treatment of its gay community, but most of it was not good.
And I want to pay credit to Bruce Kidd, who is an ex-Olympian. He was in the 64 games in Tokyo. He's currently the U of T president, but he was speaking to my UBC Olympics class saying that there's going to be no Pride House at Sochi in 2014. I thought that might be a real hot button issue leading up to the 2014 games. So I launched a crowdfunding campaign and was able to raise enough money to get myself to Sochi. And when I found out that Tim Stevenson, the openly gay city councillor, was going on behalf of Vancouver to advocate for inclusiveness, I thought this is a great character to have. And I want to follow him, and we'll make that the arc of the story and the main intent of the documentary.
Did you find a presence of homophobia throughout the Russian people while you're there?
It's a complicated issue, and that's one of the reasons why I'm glad that we could create a half-an-hour documentary to explain it. Because in Sochi, there was an Olympic bubble that was happening, and during the games, it's almost like its own ecosystem of excitement and acceptance. But the reality is when you get outside the Olympic bubble and you get into other parts of Russia, homophobia was definitely prevalent. I didn't notice it so much in the streets of Sochi, but definitely in Moscow. And when I would bring it up, people were visibly uncomfortable that I brought it up, so I could tell that it was an issue.
I was very worried about Jordan. There were some laws coming out at the time that were saying that all the media that was being shared, all the internet data that was being shared during this time would be captured and studied for 3 years. And that was a law that was just passed before the Olympics began. And I was very nervous about that and safety in general. He was going undercover, so even with this interview, I don't know how much we're going to share. I don't think he can go back to Russia and do this kind of thing again, because they banned all journalists that had a social issue background. They were very careful in making sure the journalists were all just pure sports, and he went pretending to be a tourist. We didn't even explicitly talk on Skype about what we were doing in case anybody was capturing or tapping it.
This has just galvanized at this time, and this is a huge leap forward for this civil rights movement. It's really the last of the big civil rights movements.
There you have it. Pride, Olympics, and athletes abound. This has been a wonderful film premiere, and I've been Robert Mackay for Outlook TV.
Up next, Angus meets the Sydney Stingers. They're a water polo team.
If athletics weren't sexy enough, just douse them in water.
We're here at the Listel Hotel in Vancouver, which is a host hotel for the Sydney Stingers, who are here in Vancouver for Pride, en route to the IGLA in Edmonton.
IGLA is the International Gay and Lesbian Aquatics Championships. We have over 400 participants from over 10 countries competing in swimming, diving, synchronized swimming, open water swimming, and the pink flamingo. IGLA is held in the off years of the Gay Games. So this year it's held in Edmonton. There was a competitive bid process that happens at our annual general meeting. And for our year, we were competing against Toronto and Auckland, New Zealand for our bid. And we're very excited to be able to host the World.
There has to be an organization behind it all. Can you tell us about who that is?
A small but mighty group, Making Waves Aquatics Club. We started in 1999. A number of years ago with a group of 6 of us, renting 2 lanes of the pool, and we've grown to around 60 members.
So the Sydney Stingers are a water polo club. We're based in Sydney, obviously. We've been around for about 15 years now. We started in 2001 for the Sydney Gay Games. And basically we're an inclusive water polo club, so we generally have male members, but we're looking for female members if we can.
G'day, Marcus here.
I'm Ben.
Hi, I'm Daniel.
G'day, I'm Paul. I'm Ivan. Hi.
Hi, I'm Jacob.
Hi, I'm Dion.
You guys won a Gay Games Legacy Award in 2016.
It's pretty exciting. We were nominated for that, and I think it's really been because of the club's sort of involvement in the community. We have a couple of partners there, one being the Bobby Goldsmith Foundation and another one being the AIDS Council of New South Wales. We've also been pivotal in the development of a new team in Brisbane called the Tritons, so that started earlier this year, and they should be hopefully joining us in Paris for the Gay Games in 2018.
Will you be also doing the Out Games in Miami in 2017?
We're currently looking into it, and hopefully yes, if we can all organise it and get there. We hold a trivia night in Sydney, so we've done those for the last 7 years in a row, and we have a few drag queens that come and help us. We raffle off prizes, and it's generally a pretty fun night where people get a little bit loose and have a lot of fun. So, but it's really important. We sort of raise between $10,000 and $15,000.
This is Angus Pratt for Outlook TV.
And now we're going to take you to Toronto.
With the Daily Extra.
Hey, I'm Eternity Martis, and here's a look at the top stories from our Toronto newsroom. First up, Toronto Pride recently held a pair of town halls in response to demands made by Black Lives Matter at Pride 2016.
We're demanding that we have space in Pride.
We accept BLM's request to remove all police floats as a submission to our dispute resolution process.
I just wanted to point out that I wasn't given the full information about the meeting, and I think your slide is wrong because it says town hall meetings. It doesn't say town hall meeting about blackness. And it's really unfortunate that in the presence of this awesome, wonderful space, this gift that we're giving, you're sitting behind a glass wall with no communication.
For more moments from the Pride Town Halls, visit our YouTube channel, Extra Online. And Toronto drag legend Chris Edwards passed away recently. He collapsed in his dressing room after a show in Toronto on August 26th.
I always wanted to be sexy. I can wear a beautiful evening gown, I can wear a beautiful bathing suit, and I can try to look pretty and try to do my best and enter these contests, and it just makes me feel good about myself.
For more on this story, go to Daily Extra's Facebook page. And finally, we caught up with Canadian filmmaker Xavier Dolan at this year's Toronto International Film Festival. Dolan spoke to us about adapting Jean-Luc Lagarce's play, It's Only the End of the World, for today's audience.
I feel like a common thread in your movies is a sort of ambiguity on many different levels. Ambiguity in terms of sexuality and emotions. And in particular in this movie, was there a particular reason for keeping HIV sort of ambiguous and under the radar?
Yeah, the reason is very simple. Since this film was taking place in the late 2000s, a man dying of AIDS seemed somewhat, I don't want to say improbable, but in this region of the world, in this world in which he evolves, the artistic industry, it seemed incredible to me that he would go home to tell his relatives, his next of kin, I'm dying of AIDS. This is not a problematic that seems as obviously as problematic and dramatic as it once was.
For more TIFF coverage and other lesbian and gay news, head to dailyextra.com and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For Daily Extra, I'm Eternity Martis.
It's time for us to take another little break.
Time to powder our little noses.
And you see, the truth will always set you free.
Welcome back. You're watching Outlook TV. We're going to take you now to the wilds of Delta.
For the dulcet tones of ARC, releasing a brand new video and song.
We're at the Ear Art Music Studio in Delta to interview the singer-songwriter Arc Aurelia.
You gotta walk the same as grown man drowning in the pouring rain.
What was your experience when you released your video, Life?
It was a bit daunting at first. It was the first time I had ever done a music video. I've done songs in the past and studio and stuff like that, but we really put the extra effort into this, and I was very blessed to have my producer Tim alongside of me during the process, because he helped me not only build the story, but find the actors and find the film crew and the location.
Never really had a name, 'cause if you really wanna love someone, you gotta step inside where they come from.
For Life, it was more of a broad perspective about treating everybody, from someone who's homeless or dealing with drug addiction, or is gay or anything, or just doesn't belong. That was one of the characters in the video. She just didn't belong, and I have a heart for people like that, and I want everybody to be included all the time.
When you see, the truth will always set you free.
What would you say to young trans people?
I have been the way I am my entire life since I was a child, and it was very difficult for me. My parents were wonderful, and they loved me, and they still do love me very much, but the religious aspect to my upbringing was very tough, and I just want to say that don't let that stop you from being who you are. You have to be true to yourself.
Tell us the story behind your new song, A Girl Like Me.
At this point, I'm not really revealing if the song is about me or if it's about just trans women in general, but it is about that. It's a song I wrote that I can relate to, in the sense that it tells my story, but it also tells the story of other trans women. When we do the music video, we're going to try to bring in stories from around Vancouver of other trans women and try to integrate those into the story and build more of a broad picture instead of it just being about me. It can be a song that's for everyone who's sort of gone through that.
This is how it is.
From Delta, BC, this is Gary Wolfader for Outlook TV.
And we got a nice little video for you, Rebecca.
Oh, yeah?
It's about being better together.
It is the most natural thing in the world. The desire to be included, to feel like you belong and that you're not alone.
We all want to feel loved and appreciated. But what can you do when what feels right to you is treated as wrong?
There will always be those who judge you, yet know nothing about you. Together, we are better.
We have an opportunity, an obligation.
Let's show the world that there is nothing wrong with who you are and how you want to express yourself. It's time to celebrate the power of love, because we're all happier.
We're all stronger.
We're all better together.
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this episode of Outlook TV, but fear not, we will be back.
And you have a chance to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and if you want to volunteer with us, write us an email.
Come join us, we're fun, so much fun.
Look at our clothes, these are fun clothes.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Rebecca Wyman.
And I'm Robert Mackay. Stay fabulous, Canada.